For many of us, the phrase taking the plunge indicates making an extreme commitment of some kind, perhaps even free-falling into a new venture. Well, today we're taking the show to new heights. I'm Donna Vesey, your adventurista, and stick around because on this episode of Hitting the Road, the sky's the limit.
I'm hitting the road again, got adventure crawling under my skin, going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road, I'm hitting the road again, gonna take along all of my friends, living life like it's just no end. I'm hitting the road, feeling better since I don't know when. I'm hitting the road.
We begin this episode by jumping directly into training and learn what it's like to soar like an eagle. Then, we'll meet an amazing Hall of Fame pioneer in the sport that gave rise to competitive skydiving. Finally, I will literally ascend into thin air and personally test the law of gravity and experience firsthand the aerodynamics of the human body. Have you ever had one of those dreams where you could fly, without an airplane? Well, I have. However, for me, I never considered it a possibility. So, with friend and cameraman Dave Franklin in tow, I decided to give it a whirl, and we took off to iFly Denver, an indoor skydiving facility, to experience what it was like to float on the wind.
iFly is all about bringing the dream of flight to anyone who wants to fly. So we fulfill that dream here by teaching people the basics of body flight and flying inside of a wind tunnel. So basically our machine here is a recirculating wind tunnel, okay? We have 4 motors that are actually at the top of our facility. So when we flew up in the flight chamber with you guys, up at the top to the right and left are 4 of our big fans. So those things are a combined 1,200 horsepower. So it's very, very powerful. And actually the air moves through this entire building and collects and gets squeezed right underneath that metal net and gets accelerated right where you guys fly. So it's kind of a wonderful physics thing. We actually do experiential learning programs about how this machine works and physics and aerodynamics and surface area. Wonderful stuff. But I mean, this is an incredible machine. Amazing piece of technology. Sure, the wind speed in our flight chamber varies. It just depends on the size and the body position of the flyer. So if we have a 6-year-old girl that weighs 45, 50 pounds, the wind speed's going to be very, very low in that 70, 80 mile an hour range. And somebody our size will fly anywhere from 115, and that's just on our bellies, the position you guys flew in today. It could actually be quite a bit higher in the 140 mile an hour range if we're flying on our feet or on our heads, something that's presenting less surface area to the wind.
The neutral body flight position is basically making a giant X with our body so that we have a balanced platform as we're letting the wind do all the work. So all we're doing is making a shape with our body that looks like an X so that the wind can lift us off the ground. Yeah, most people think about, they want to hold their body weight up with all their muscles, where the wind will do the most of the work for you. Like we were talking about with that shape, if you can find the shape, the wind does all the work for you. So if you can find a relaxed shape, you will fly way better. So personally, I love to fly the most because of the fact that, really, I've always wanted to be Peter Pan, and this is a great way to do it, because the cool part about the tunnel is if you can think it, you can fly it. It just takes a little bit of time and experience with the senior instructors to be able to acquire the skills that allow you to do whatever position you would like, but then eventually move those positions into a routine, if you want to put it that way. But the best part about flying is flying itself. I mean, just to have that feeling of actually floating without any assistance, and it's just your body, is just incredible.
What I like most about being here or being around the wind tunnel environment is the instruction, the teaching and working with people. I find this is such an interesting thing that the people come in here, they're very passionate, they're very focused, they want to learn. And teaching people like that is, I can't really say anything more. I want to do that, and that's what I get to do.
Yeah, so basically anybody that wants to come to the facility, we take anybody from the ages of 3 to 103.
Whether you want to jump out of a plane or not, this is an amazing experience, period. If you are going to pursue skydiving as either a sport or just a one-time lesson, this is a great primer. I mean, you can take this from the most basic, just having an experience, to becoming a pro. You know, and to do that here in an environment that's safe with plenty of coaching and really experienced instructors, can't ask for anything better. You know, the process is really simple. You come in here, we get you checked in, we go upstairs. Well, in our facility, you go upstairs and you meet with your instructor. Instructor's going to teach you a class just like you guys went through, really the basics of body flight and how to stay safe in the wind tunnel. After that, we get you guys the equipment that you need. So we always give them jumpsuits, goggles, helmets, earplugs. Pretty much that's everything that you need. Once you guys have all the gear that you have, you walk inside the ante-chamber or our flight chamber with the instructor, and then you start flying.
Skydiving, or parachuting as it was formerly called, has come a long way. Kim Emmons-Knorr has seen firsthand the changes in the sport, as she was one of the first women competitive jumpers, going on to win the gold medal for competitive jumping for Team USA in 1962.
When was your first jump?
Oh goodness, my first jump was in December of 1959.
What was your last jump?
My last jump was in February of 2014.
Wow. So just last year?
Last year, yes.
How many jumps do you have under your belt?
I have log jumps. Some of them I forget to write in my book, but log jumps I have 538.
What made you want to jump in the first place?
Ooh. I wanted to jump when I was 5 years old.
Really? What prompted you?
My uncle, my favorite uncle, came back from World War II, and he was a pilot. And in the training process, he had to jump twice, and the plane was on fire. And so he brought home one of the parachutes that he used to jump, and it was the old silk. It wasn't nylon like we're using today. It was real silk. He brought that home, told the story, and I was just awestruck. And I remember the first week he was home, and he let me roll up and sleep in that parachute.
Oh, how exciting.
Yep. In the old days when I started, everything was focused on the parachute. Making the parachute steerable, making the parachute safe to land. Everything was about the landing. I was a competitive jumper. It's about where you land, how close you are on the little 6-inch disc in the middle of the target.
How much did your parachute, along with the reserve pack, what was the total weight of all of that?
I think it was about 37 pounds. In the original skydiving days, or parachute days, we didn't really know that much about our equipment. We knew it was a parachute, it's gonna land us, didn't think anything more about it. And they were all, like I say, Army surplus, so they're standardized. And we didn't know anything about wing loading, about weight, about what's safe or what isn't, and turning the parachute, how fast you're gonna drop out of the sky. Then when I came back into the sport in 2003, it was all about skydiving. This was totally different. Everything was what happens before the parachute opens.
Right.
And that was really exciting, but I had to learn what we call relative work, call it RW. And I had to learn all of that because I never experienced that in my beginning parachuting experience.
And parachutes themselves have changed. From your pictures, it looks like the reserve chute is in the front. Is that correct?
That's correct. And in my pictures that I have, this is all Army surplus from World War II, is what we started using then. And into the 60s, they started actually building sport parachutes. When I started jumping, we didn't have toggles, and during that early time, we started cutting out panels of the parachutes, and I'd go down to the yard goods store and buy seam tape and tape them and sew it together, and we did eventually put steering lines on those, because now we had a hole that gave us forward speed, or gave us a little steerability. And the military canopies, you had to pull down on a riser, and it was really hard to do. So we put the toggle lines and steering lines on. That was one of the innovations during that time, to steer this modified parachute.
Did you ever have to deploy your reserve chute?
Once I had to deploy my reserve chute. I think it was on my 6th or 7th jump.
Was that pretty scary?
It was. And the thing is, this parachute, again, our emergency chute's on your stomach. And so when it's deployed, you're not vertical when you're gonna land.
Oh dear.
And so it's kind of hard to find a place to land that you're not going to, that you can get your feet under you. It just was very confusing to me to try to land that way.
So did you ever compete?
Yes, I did. And then my first competition was in 1960, and they were in places in the Midwest, and they were all men. I was the only female. But the first nationals that I jumped in, that was in Fort Bragg, and there was one girl from California and myself, and the rest were all men. And then we went to Massachusetts, and the world meet was there. We trained that summer in Massachusetts in Orange, and the team was selected there, and I was on the team. That was my first international competition.
And that's where you won the gold medal?
That's where we won the gold medal as a team, yes.
What was it like winning the gold medal?
Oh, that was the best part. You can't imagine how wonderful it is to stand under the American flag and hear the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, I bet that was amazing. When were you inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I was inducted into the National Skydiving Hall of Fame in 2013.
That must have been pretty exciting.
That was really exciting for me. It was totally, totally unexpected.
What's the best thing about skydiving for you?
I think the best thing about skydiving for me is the people and the friends that I've made. These are lifetime friendships. It's about the bond, and it's about the trust that we have with each other. I think there is something in the mix that God gave us to want to fly.
If you had ever told me that I would actually jump out of a plane, I would have thought you probably had your head in the clouds until I started working on this episode. But once I met Kendra Boyson and John Mahan, drop zone owners of Out of the Blue Skydiving, I felt the winds of change carry me away.
And when did you start jumping?
Started in 2003 or 4.
What got you interested in jumping?
I did one jump as a tandem, just loved it and found a way to do it myself and started my training then and later that year, and now I own a place.
How did you two meet?
We met skydiving as well, actually. I was a very low jump number student, actually, and I was trying to pack my parachute and struggling, and then good old John comes over and starts helping me out, and no turning back.
Now you teach skydiving here as well, is that correct?
I've been teaching here at Out of the Blue, going on my 4th year, and the whole time we've been open, I've been instructing here.
Is it fun teaching?
It is. It's very rewarding. Tandem passengers, they're great, but unfortunately I only get to see them once, maybe twice sometimes, because they'll do it, and that's kind of their plan. The other students that come back after doing tandems and we teach and become members of the skydiving family, those are great and very rewarding to see people that, never had jumped before and now are out flying me in the sky. It's quite rewarding.
What do I have to do to get qualified on my own?
To be able to skydive on your own, you start with picking the progression that you want to do, whether it's tandem onto solos or just completely by yourself. It's going to involve a classroom portion of about 6 to 7 hours of training, where we teach you how to fly a canopy, how to do the air skills that you're going to need to do, how to pull your own chute, all those skills. We put you through rigorous training and making sure you can pull your canopy, reach all the equipment, and make sure you could use your reserve chute if something were to be wrong with your main, and get you ready. Then we start with one jump at a time. So that's your first class is about 6 to 7 hours, then one jump. After that, each jump is also some ground training to go into it. And we slowly just build upon the skills that you learned the jump before until you've proven the skills to be able to jump completely on your own with no instructors. At that point, you get to play in the air by yourself, but you're still considered a student until you reach 25 jumps, which is your first license that you can acquire. You have quite a bit of testing and skills that you have to prove on the way to that. As long as you prove that, you get your license, you can start jumping with other people.
A rigger is responsible for packing the reserve parachute, and riggers must be certified by the FAA. The reserve chute must be packed every 180 days. Packers who pack the main parachute are supervised by the riggers. Another great safety feature, parachutes today are equipped with an automatic activation device which deploys the chute automatically if it isn't manually deployed by a certain altitude.
How old do you have to be to jump?
You have to be at least 18 years old to jump, which is a requirement of the United States Parachute Association.
And is there an age limit?
You can be 100 years old as long as you're in good health and wanting to do it. We will get you out of a plane.
Do most people do it as a bucket list thing?
We see lots of people doing their first jump as a bucket list. Mine, myself, was a bucket list item. And then we also get lots of people celebrating birthday parties and just milestones in life. So we get some engagement proposals out here and just any big events.
That must be romantic, engagement proposals.
Yes, it's very fun to watch those. We just had one probably a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun just planning the whole process and then seeing them land and the actual engagement taking place.
So walk me through the process a little bit. What's the first thing that happens when I come in here?
The first thing is you start out with some waivers and watch a little waiver video. Once you've completed that, we'll go ahead and weigh you. So we need to know your weight so we can have a weight and balance for the plane ready. Okay. And then once our instructors are ready for you, they'll take over and grab you, start getting you geared up. You'll put a jumpsuit on over your clothes and then they'll start harnessing you up.
As a tandem, you'll have your own harness that you wear. There are 4 clips that attach to the parachute system and hold you in. We snug you up quite tight before you get out of the plane, and those clips will hold you in. Each one's rated to 4,000 plus pounds. But then you're attached to the parachute system with the instructor behind you, and you guys fly as a pair the rest of the way down. And once the canopy opens, you're loosened up a little bit to let you be more comfortable under canopy ride, and then we come in as a pair on the ground, and once we're safely on the ground, you're released completely from the parachute system, and you're able to freely stand up and walk away.
And jump for joy.
And jump for joy, yay! So how far up do we go before we jump?
We'll be going to 18,000 MSL, basically, which is 12,000 off the ground here. The free fall today will be about 45 seconds before we open the parachute.
Okay. And how long does it take from the time the parachute deploys till you hit the ground?
It can take anywhere from about 5 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on how we fly. The more aggressive and more roller coaster like you like, the quicker the time down to the ground. The scenery flight and just floating around takes a little bit longer, and it's all based on the passenger.
And what is the thrill of skydiving for you?
You know, skydiving is so hard to describe to people, but I am always giddy once I get done jumping. You can always tell if I've gone too long without a jump because I'm cranky. I don't have that spring in my step like I usually do. And so with skydiving, when you're in that free fall, you can forget about everything else. You're in that moment, and that's it. That's all you have to worry about. And it's just the most relaxing and freeing thing, and words just can't describe it.
I personally like the canopy flight. That's what I focused a lot of my early career on, and I still really enjoy it. I actually got to experience a brand new canopy, one of the newest swing shapes and planforms they got, and it was amazing and really brought back my love for the sport this last weekend. I love teaching people. I just like all the aspects of the sport.
Skydiving is wonderful. It's absolutely unforgettable for anybody who does it, and I think everybody should try it at least once.
Yeah, skydiving is just indescribable. You can't explain to someone else who hasn't done it, and you really need to try it yourself. Yes, you're gonna have a great time.
I'm going to see you smiling when you get to the ground.
Donna, how was it?
It was awesome.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's indescribable. I can't even think about the words that would.
Go ahead, take your goggles on. Thanks. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part was watching you guys and my stomach and my throat the whole time, floating like a bird.
I continued to speed talk for about 3 hours afterwards. There are just not enough adjectives to describe skydiving. It is something that must be experienced, and I am so glad I did.
I'm hitting the road again. Got adventure crawling under my skin. Going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road. I'm hitting the road again. Gonna take along all of my friends. Living life like it's just no end. I'm hitting the road. Feeling better since I don't know